Hi everyone. In this lecture we are going to continue talking about inputs for power and sample size analysis. We started with finding the inputs from a literature review, and now we're going to talk about getting these key numeric inputs from internal pilot studies. Just to give you a little roadmap, after that in the next lecture we'll be discussing getting these inputs from planned pilot studies. So today we will talk about internal pilot studies. What they are, the benefits of using them, and their limitations. As we said, we can use internal pilot studies to find inputs that we need for power and sample size analysis. What it does is take data from part of the main study and uses the data to estimate parameters for your power analysis. We're going to go over the 5 steps of conducting internal pilot studies. The first thing you want to do is specify what your study is going to look like. This looks very much like power analysis, where you must discuss design dimensions, mean differences, and estimate standard deviation and recruitment time. After that, you collect about half of the data for your data set. Then you re-estimate the variance based on the data you collected. However, you don't re-estimate the mean difference, just re-estimate the variance. You then recalculate the sample size and collect the rest of the data and conduct your hypothesis test. It sounds simple, so let's talk about what it actually does for you. It allows you to do what's called an interim power analysis. This is where you use a portion of the main study's data to get better estimations of some of the inputs, like standard deviation, for example, for your power and sample size calculation. However, these internal pilot studies are limited. They are not very useful for estimating means or confidence intervals, and they are not recommended for interim data analysis. So you're not confused. What we're talking about in the last slide is an interim power analysis, which is different. On top of that, if you mess with the data, you also have to mess with your type 1 error rate to prevent type 1 error rate inflation. Remember, type 1 error is the probability of rejecting the null hypothesis when you should not. Type 1 error rates can inflate in small studies when variance is estimated, like we do in internal pilots. However, in large studies with greater than 50 participants, you can actually conduct your internal pilot and get away with appreciable type 1 error rate inflation. So as long as you're running a large study, it wouldn't hurt you to make sure that your variance is what you thought it is, recalculate the sample size, and make sure you're on track. That is actually something that careful researchers often do in their studies. Let's do a quick review summary. We use internal pilot studies to estimate inputs for power and sample size analysis. We use the data from a portion of the main study, and it allows for us to conduct interim power analysis. Internal pilot studies do have limitations, though. They are not used for estimating means or confidence intervals, and they are not appropriate for conducting interim data analysis. Internal pilot studies can often inflate type 1 error rate if there are less than 50 participants in the study. That's it for this lecture. Thank you for your time.